In June 2023, the entire world locked its eyes on the North Atlantic. 5 men were trapped inside a tiny submersible, lost somewhere in the pitch-black water, as rescue crews raced against a terrifying 4-day oxygen clock. When sonar operators detected rhythmic, repeating banging noises echoing from the deep, it felt like a lifeline. To the millions watching the news, it sounded exactly like human beings tapping on a hull, desperately signaling that they were alive and waiting for salvation. But that countdown was a ghost. The world spent 4 days holding its breath for a rescue that was physically impossible. The reality is, the moment that submersible lost communication on Sunday morning, the passengers were already gone. They suffered what is known as a catastrophic implosion. At those extreme depths, the pressure is so violent, a structural failure causes the vessel to be crushed inward in a fraction of a millisecond. It happens so fast that the human nervous system cannot even register the event. There was no pain, no panic, and no waiting in the dark. How do 5 people, including billionaires, who paid $250,000 a ticket, end up sealed inside a metal tube, bolted shut from the outside, at the absolute bottom of the world? The answer starts with OceanGate and its CEO, Stockton Rush. He didn't view the deep ocean as a hostile frontier that demanded rigorous naval engineering. He viewed it the way a Silicon Valley founder views software, an outdated industry ripe for rapid disruption. His crowning achievement was the Titan, a custom-built submersible meant to finally open up the deep ocean to ordinary, albeit very wealthy, civilians. To keep costs down and iterate quickly, Rush made design choices that horrified maritime experts. The multi-million-dollar vessel was famously steered using a $30 wireless video game controller. And if the sub managed to surface in an emergency, the passengers couldn't simply open a hatch. The door was literally bolted shut from the outside. This move fast and break things philosophy works when you're building an app. It is a lethal mindset when you are descending into an environment where a single physical error guarantees immediate death. The Titan's destination was the wreck of the Titanic, resting nearly 4,000 meters below the surface. Down there, sunlight does not exist. The water exerts a pressure of roughly 380 atmospheres. That is equivalent to taking the massive weight of 380 commercial airplanes and balancing them all directly onto an area the size of a single human body. To survive this, traditional deep-sea vessels use thick spheres of solid titanium. Rush instead built the middle of the Titan out of carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is incredible at handling tension. When pulled tight, those woven fibers hold perfectly steady. But the deep ocean squeezes. Under extreme external compression, those same carbon fibers are fatally weak. They buckle and snap. The Titan was built around a material specifically designed for the exact opposite of the forces it would face at the bottom of the sea. Before its final voyage, the Titan had already reached these depths and returned to the surface several times. To an outside observer, the design seemed to be working. In reality, each dive subjected the vessel to cyclic fatigue. As the submersible descended, pressure squeezed the hull, and as it rose, the hull relaxed. This repeated stress caused microscopic fractures to slowly spread deep inside the carbon fiber walls. Because the damage was buried inside the material itself, a visual inspection from the outside showed a perfectly intact vessel. Each successful trip was actually winding down a mathematical clock, moving the structure closer to a total breakdown. The company knew about this risk. In 2018, OceanGate's director of marine operations produced an internal report pleading for proper hull testing and warning of an eventual catastrophic failure. In response, he was fired. When he tried to raise the alarm, OceanGate hit him with a lawsuit. They actively chose to silence the exact engineering expertise that could have kept their passengers alive. When the hull finally gave way on June 18th, 5 distinct lives were lost in the blink of an eye. Among them was a terrified 19-year-old college student who reportedly had no desire to go on the trip, but went anyway simply to spend Father's Day with his dad. The water at that depth makes no distinction between a billionaire holding a golden ticket, a teenager honoring his father, or an executive who believed his own marketing. Days later, remotely operated cameras located what was left of the Titan, twisted pieces of metal resting on the seafloor, just a short distance from the famous shipwreck they had traveled so far to see. Stockton Rush looked at a lethal, unforgiving environment and assumed it was just another sluggish industry waiting for a clever entrepreneur to bypass the old rules. You can cut costs on components, you can fire the whistleblowers, and win the public relations battle, but you can never negotiate with the absolute laws of physics.